I was actually an accidental PR professional also. I come from an engineering and mathematics background. I come from a statistical background. So while I was, it really turned out to be that for me, I felt that communication has great power, and I always knew that whenever I actually forayed into entrepreneurship, it would have to do with communication. And as I went and studied PR in Symbiosis, one of the things that I started understanding, Parul, which I felt is very important and at times missing, is that I started understanding the business of communication. And a lot of us, when we come out of, and we get our first job, I think one of the things that I really concentrated on was understanding how this business works, understanding what is it that customers look at, how do you really build a strong structure, a strong foundation, why are processes important. And I think those are the things that led me, Parul, to actually branch out on my own. When I was confident about understanding the pulse of the business, obviously the power of communication was something I already knew of, and that's why I was in it. But to me, it is really and truly a passion. I love what communication has the power to do, and something that we go and explore every single day with different brands and even ourselves, or if it's a social thing, whatever. It's just such a great journey that when you're in that entire process of trying to figure out what's the right message, what can you anticipate from a user, it's such a satisfying experience that for a second you don't feel like you're working. Those are the experiences I live for. That's the reason that I think that I became an entrepreneur, to actually see how I can scale those experiences to more people and grow the business. But yeah, that's kind of a roundabout answer to your question, Parul. I hope that answers it. We have learned a lot of what not to do in communications from some of our world leaders recently, right? When not to say something, when not to use that tone, when not to use that word, when not to say something that's sensitive, and a lot of them, and that's the power. Because if you see that today on this panel, I'm talking about our world leaders and maybe making critiques on some of them in terms of when they're saying some things. That is really the power, because in communication, it's like a level playing field, right, Parul? Everybody has a voice. So here, it's not about how much money, how much academic, how much, where you come from. What you say matters. It doesn't matter who says it. And if somebody has a opposing view, they have today the opportunity to go and voice it. Which means that the power of communication is that it is as powerful as it is not powerful for people, because everybody is as a level playing field. So I think we've seen that communication has the power to galvanize communities. It has the power to bring people together, and not one instrument in this world that I have seen can bring people together better than a great speaker or a great message or a great speech that can bring it together. We've seen it throughout our history, right? That's what I would say, Bharat. How do we hire people out of college today? And second is, how would I like to hire people out of college, ideally? On the first hand, for all the reasons that Kaustubh and Arindam said, and there are challenges in education as well. But because of those reasons, we hardly hire for academics, like Kaustubh said. So we hire for attitude, we hire for maturity, we hire for the ability to give and take feedback. I think it is probably one of the most important skills in a working environment, and most people, including myself, are not too good at it. And and it is something that I continuously work at. But as more and more, I've seen my journey in entrepreneurship, the people who have the ability to give and take feedback, which means giving it well and taking it better, are the teams which succeed, because that's when you can get collaborative. I see so many people swallowing their feedback because I want to avoid the confrontation of giving it. And this is such a horrible state to be in, and then you call yourself a company, and if that's the culture you go and promote outside, imagine internally what hell people are going through, where somebody knows somebody else is doing something wrong but do not have the courage to go and tell them because they want to avoid a conflict. The last part is cultural exposure. Communications is about connecting the dots. If the child, and I'm calling it a child because in career, the child who's just come out of college into an industry, if that child has only read through books, only sat in the classroom, and the rest of his life or her life, they've only sat in front of the TV and done just inside the one, in their own little world, it won't help because they don't have as many dots to connect. It is important for us to be exposed to not just, and I tell this to people, I ask people, what's your favorite music? What's your favorite books? What's your favorite genre? And then I tell them, for work, you have to listen, read, and watch everything outside of it. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to connect possibly unconnected things together and be creative, and that's what it's about.